from the Cake Studios. This is Good Morning Kansas.
Cold front on the way to Cakeland. While it's not going to bring us much rain, it will make us cooler for Wednesday. Look at those numbers coming up.
Well, we're tracking that breaking news this morning. Multiple people are shot in downtown Wichita.
It happened shortly after 12:30 this morning outside the Enigma Club and Lounge in Old Town. Cake's Annette Lawless is live downtown with what we are learning. And Annette, I understand you've moved locations and we've got a better view of what happened.
Absolutely, Pilar. We're trying to get a better vantage point just to show exactly what is taking place this morning. Officers blocking off this area of a very active crime scene. We can see that yellow crime scene tape right in front of us. And then just behind all of that, investigators are inside of that building. And if you look at the windows and doors in the front of that club, they are broken as a result of everything that had taken place this morning. But it's been so busy throughout the morning. Police tell us everything of what they know, and they believe it all started with a fight of some sort at this club, which one man then got kicked out. And they believe that he later walked back and started shooting into the club from the street, hitting 8 people. We do know that one man has died as a result of his injuries. 2 others are in the hospital with life-threatening injuries. And again, police, they're still looking for the shooter, and they expect to be out at the scene for several hours.
We're still gathering video, processing the scene down here, and interviewing multiple witnesses that were in and around the club when this happened.
We've seen those officers walking in and out of the building, taking pictures as well on the outside as they're trying to piece together everything as to what happened. Again, they're still searching for the suspect in this case, and they would appreciate any tips from folks. You can call police at 911, of course, and then you can also call Crime Stoppers if you want to leave a tip anonymously. That number to reach them is 316-267-2111. Reporting live in Wichita, Annette Lawless, Cake News on your side.
All right, thanks, Annette. We'll check back in with you in a little bit. Stay with Cake News for the latest information on this still developing situation on air and online at cake.com as soon as we get it.
Now live from the Cake Studios, this is Cake News on your side at 11.
1 person dead and 5 others hurt in a shooting at a club in Old Town. This is a live look from Old Town quiet now, but nearly 12 hours ago, the scene was very hectic. We do know that Wichita police are giving a briefing with the latest information as we speak. Captain Jason Stevens with Wichita Police speaking, so let's go to that right now.
Ages 22, 24, 28, 24, and 40. And each one of them received life-threatening injuries from gunfire as well. Most of the injuries were to the legs. One had an injury to an arm and the lower back. All of them were taken to local hospitals. Some of them have already been released, but all of them are expected to survive their injuries. During the investigation, officers and detectives learned that there was a disturbance inside the club, which resulted in our suspect, who has been identified as being Keyshawn Maurice Dawson, a black male, date of birth, well, I won't give his date of birth, but he is approximately 22, 23 years old. He was involved in a disturbance inside the bar that was physical, and he was escorted from the club by employees. He left for a short period of time and returned and fired several shots into the doors and windows at the front of the business, resulting in the before mentioned injuries. He left in a dark colored vehicle, and as I mentioned before, he's been identified through the course of the investigation. I also want to mention that he is currently wanted on 2 felony Sedgwick County warrants and is prohibited from possessing a firearm because of his felony conviction.
Any questions for the captain?
Can you spell the suspect's name?
Sure. It's K-E-S-H-A-W-N. Middle name is Maurice, M-A-U-R-I-C-E. Last name Dawson, D-A-W-S-O-N.
All right, we appear to have lost audio from that news conference. Just to recap, police have now identified the suspect in this case, Keyshawn Maurice Dawson, 22 to 23 years of age. They say that he got into a physical fight at the club, folks from the club escorted him off of the premises, and he left for a while, came back, fired through the doors, hitting 6 people, 1 person dead, 5 others, women ages 22, 24, 28, 24, and 40, all of them with life-threatening injuries, although all of them now expected to survive. Some of them already released from the hospital at this point. They say that Dawson is wanted by Sedgwick County on 2 felony warrants. He already has a felony conviction, which makes possession of a firearm for him illegal as well. Police are continuing to search for that suspect at this time. We will continue to follow this and bring you the latest updates as soon as we have them available. We'll hear also more from Annette later in this show. Meanwhile, stay with us on air and online at cake.com for all the latest. We're learning new details this morning about a deadly shooting at a club in Old Town. Wichita police identifying the man killed as 34-year-old Preston Spencer. The shooting happened shortly after midnight outside the Enigma Club and Lounge in Old Town near 3rd and Washington. Police now say the suspect is Keyshawn Maurice Dawson. Now, Wichita police just wrapped up a news conference moments ago from City Hall. KAKE's Annette Lawless has been following this all morning. Annette, what did police have to say?
Pilar, police say that they're continuing to look for Keyshawn Dawson, and they say that it's through social media and video footage that helped them identify him as the suspect in this deadly shooting. A very busy morning for officers over at the scene in Old Town. The shooting taking place around 12:30 this morning, and I will tell you, it was such a busy scene as investigators tried to piece together everything as to what led up to what happened out there. So they tell us that Dawson had gone into the nightclub. There was some sort of fight or altercation, and he was kicked out. Then he came back, and from the sidewalk outside, he started shooting. And that's where these individuals got hurt. 1 man has died as a result of the shooting, and 5 women were rushed to the hospital. We're told that those women are expected to be okay, the victims being described as being in their 20s to 40s. But at this point, they're hoping the community can help in regards to finding Keyshawn Dawson. Again, a man who is believed to be responsible for this shooting out in Old Town. They're hoping that anyone with information will call 911 or to call Crime Stoppers at 316-267-2111. We're told that he is considered to be dangerous. He has 2 felony warrants out right now. We're trying to get additional details as to what those warrants are connected to. Police gathering that information for us, and we'll share it here with you as soon as we get it. Reporting live in Wichita, Annette Lawless, KAKE News on your side.
All right, thanks, Annette. Stay with KAKE News for the latest information on this shooting on air and online as soon as we get it at cake.com.
Now live from the KAKE studios, this is KAKE News on your side at 6.
Tonight, a night out at a club in Old Town, shattered by gunfire.
Last night, unfortunately, evil happened.
Half a dozen people hit by bullets. A man who died described as a model co-worker and father.
He was just the best. He was an entertainer. He was a family guy.
And the man accused of pulling the trigger has yet to be found.
Nobody would have ever expected that he would go out and did what he did.
KAKE News at 6 starts right now.
And the search for that suspected gunman continues tonight. Good evening, I'm Deb Barris.
And I'm David Scott. That shooting overnight at a club in Old Town killed 1 man and injured several women. KAKE's Jackson Overstreet is live now outside that club called Enigma to kick off our team coverage tonight. Jackson.
David, Deb, we're about 18 hours since that initial call out, and it's a very different scene here at Enigma than it was early this morning. All that's left really still some pieces of broken glass from this morning, but there is some flowers that have been set up there just outside of the club here. That's about the only memorial that we've seen so far here for the victims. Now, when it comes to actually what took place tonight, police tell us it all came from 1 man, Keyshawn Dawson. They say that is who Wichita police opened fire on the club just after 12:30 this morning. Now, police tell us it all started when Dawson was kicked out of the club. Detectives say Dawson left and then returned with a gun and opened fire on the building. And that's when he killed 34-year-old Preston Spencer, injured 5 women. Now, police say they were able to identify Dawson with help of the surveillance technology that's here in Old Town. Are we good?
I can say that there are a lot of camera surveillance in the Old Town area and the business itself, and that was instrumental in helping us not only understand what happened, but also in identifying the suspect.
Now, Wichita police tell us they are still looking for Dawson and that he was caught on video leaving in a dark color sedan, is what they told us earlier today. He's also wanted on 2 felony warrants with the Sedgwick County and is prohibited from having a firearm, according to police. Now, if you have any information on where Dawson is, you are asked to call Wichita police or Crime Stoppers. If you do call Crime Stoppers, you can remain anonymous when you send that tip in. Now, as far as the 5 women that were injured in the shooting, police tell us that all of them should survive, and a majority of them have already been released from the hospital. And we'll be sure to keep you updated if Dawson is found and any more information on this case. But for now, live in downtown Wichita, Jackson Overstreet, Cake News on your side.
And our Cake team coverage of the shooting continues now with another look at that suspect, 23-year-old Keyshawn Dawson. We'll have much more on his criminal history in just a minute. But first, let's get out to Cake's Hannah Baker, who's live in Old Town with more on the man who was killed last night, Preston Spencer. He leaves behind his wife and 2 young children. Hannah?
Yeah, Deb, the owner here at Enigma tells me what happened last night was just evil. And while he's still in shock, he says what's most important is those families impacted by this tragic incident.
Last night, unfortunately, evil happened.
Owner of Enigma Club and Lounge, Ali Kabar, is at a loss for words after the devastating shooting that happened at his bar early Tuesday morning. It all started when police say Keyshawn Dawson started a fight and security asked him to leave.
You know, they shook hands, come back next Monday. You know, we'll take care of you next Monday.
What happened next, no one could have expected. Police say Dawson came back and opened fire, killing Preston Spencer and injuring 5 women.
All this is nothing. What I'm going through is nothing compared to the loss of the Spencer family and the pain and that's the injured are going through in the hospital.
Spencer was a beloved bar manager at 12 Restaurant Bar. The owner, Bryce Kuhn, who didn't want to be on camera, says the whole crew is devastated.
He was just the best. He was an entertainer. He was a family guy. He was, he was a great friend. Just the kind of person who always wanted to put a smile on other people's faces.
Kuhn says he's going to contact the family and hopefully plan a day to remember Spencer so customers and coworkers can come pay respects and donate to the grieving family. Spencer leaves behind a wife and 2 young children. His wife released this statement saying, "Preston was one of the greatest gifts I was blessed to have, and he gave me 2 beautiful children to share this life with. There's nothing that can bring him back, but he will live on in the legacy that he leaves behind."
Other family members I spoke with off camera say that Preston Spencer was a shining light and a true gentleman of a person. Now there is a GoFundMe set up. We'll have that linked on this story on cake.com. Live in downtown Wichita, Hannah Baker, Cake News on your side.
All right, thanks, Hannah. And tonight we're also uncovering more about the suspect in this shooting. Cake's Jessica Crawford is here now with more on that. Jessica.
Well, we're learning more about criminal charges that Keyshawn Dawson has had in the past. Dawson is also wanted on 2 felony Sedgwick County warrants, and 2 weeks ago he was scheduled to be sentenced for one of those crimes but failed to appear. The court issued a warrant for his arrest. He was just released from prison in December of 2020. I'm Jessica Crawford, Cake News on your side.
Thanks, Jessica. And stay with Cake News for continuing coverage of this morning's fatal shooting in Old Town. Watch for updates on air and online at our website, cake.com.
Now live from the Cake Studios, this is Cake News on your side at 10.
Tonight, new video of the moment a man opened fire outside an Old Town nightclub, killing 1 and injuring 5 others.
Plus,
it's hard to hard to fathom. Your body goes into shock and disbelief.
An exclusive interview with the uncle of the man who died, who says he was loved by everyone who knew him.
And the search for the man who pulled the trigger, and the search for answers as to why he started shooting. Cake News at 10 starts right now.
And first tonight, that stunning video showing exactly what happened.
A neighboring business captured the moments when the shots were fired just after 12:30 this morning. Take a look. You see a group of people near the top right of the screen out on the sidewalk in front of Enigma nightclub on Mosley Street when a man with no shirt fires 5 shots into the club. He then moves and fires 4 more. Here's another look with full sound.
You see people in cars immediately scattering from the scene. Wichita police say the man firing those shots is Keyshawn Dawson. They say this all started when Dawson was kicked out of the club earlier in the night, then returned with a gun and fired into the building. 34-year-old Preston Spencer was killed. 5 women were hurt. Detectives say they were able to identify Dawson thanks to all the surveillance technology in Old Town, like this video, which has now been turned over to Wichita police. And we have heard over and over from those who knew Preston Spencer that he was as good of a person that anyone could ever want to know. And one of those people saying that is his uncle. Cake's Eli Higgins is live in Old Town tonight with the exclusive interview. Eli.
Yeah, David, like you said, while doing the story today, there was no shortage of people saying how amazing he was. Hundreds of people saying how he touched their lives. Now take a look. This is where it happened. Right now there are some candles lit and some flowers on the floor over there. And tonight, for the first time, his family is speaking out, saying it's an unimaginable loss.
Our last conversation with him last night was full of jokes and laughter, and that's just the way he was.
Keith Spencer says his nephew Preston Spencer's voice was one of the last things he heard Monday night before falling asleep. Just a few hours later, he got an unthinkable phone call.
It's hard to fathom. Your body goes into shock and disbelief, and you're just trying to process the words that are coming out of someone else's mouth. That's just unfathomable.
Preston was out with friends at Enigma Club and Lounge in downtown Wichita when he was shot and killed just moments before Keith says he was heading home.
That's part of the shock and disbelief, is it's just trying to wrap your mind around how someone that is so well liked and loved and who cared about everybody could die at the hands of random violence like this.
Keith says Preston never knew a stranger and had no enemies. He was a family man, adored his wife and 2 children, and worked selflessly to make everyone's life around him better. He worked at 12 Restaurant and Bar for the last 5 years. Keith says while there's no easy way forward, the top priority is Preston's wife and kids.
Most important thing for us is making sure that his family is taking care of his wife and his 2 young kids. I mean, my great nephew's asking for his daddy, and how do you explain to somebody that's 5 years old that dad's not coming home?
And Keith says if you want to help the family, the best way you can do that right now is by donating, if you want, to their GoFundMe. Now, for a link to that page and to donate, just go to cake.com and click on this story. Live downtown, Eli Higgins, Cake News on your side.
And tonight, police are still searching for the suspected gunman in the case, Keyshawn Dawson, a 23-year-old with a lengthy criminal history. Wichita police say the man in this security video firing 9 rounds into the Enigma nightclub is 23-year-old Deshaun Dawson. You see him open fire, then run from the scene. Dawson has a lengthy criminal history, convicted in juvenile court 3 different times, dating back to when he was just 16. Then just a few years later, when he turned 18, Dawson pleaded guilty to possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. Then the same conviction a year later. In each case, court documents show Dawson violated his probation, leading to more charges. In this warrant for Dawson's arrest, it shows he often goes by the name Lil Blood and is involved in gang activity.
And finally, just a couple of weeks ago, a judge issued another warrant for Dawson's arrest for failure to appear in court for his sentencing. Now he's wanted for murder.
And we contacted Dawson's mother tonight. She says she has no idea where her son is, and she declined to comment on the shooting at the nightclub.
And stay with Cake News for continuing coverage of this morning's fatal shooting in Old Town. Watch for updates on air and online at our website, cake.com.